and welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today we're going to talk about the worst books of 2017. Buckle up. So here's the thing, I don't actually own any of these books anymore. They were that bad that I was like, get out of my life. You should know what these books already are. So the first two books are a part of a series that I actually unhauled in my great unhaul of 2017. This is books number 4 and 5 of the Mortal Instruments series. Don't come after me, Cassie Clare fans, because there was no part of books 4 and 5 that made me even want to read book number 6. So I'm talking about City of Fallen Angels and City of Lost Souls. The Mortal Instruments series, I was a really big fan of books 1, 2, and 3. I'm not a big fan, but like a big enough fan that I felt that I would like to continue on with the Mortal Instruments series, and books number 4 and 5 were the biggest letdown of 2017. I don't want to say of life, because I read the entire 50 Shades of Grey series, so they were not as bad as that. But all of the wonderful world building that we got with the Shadow Hunters, Jace, Clary, I was fine with it. We had a really great resolution with Sebastian, I felt, in book number 3. We got to books 4 and 5. It just dragged out the rest of the Shadow Hunters and Sebastian's plotline. Honestly, you could have combined books 4 and 5 together. It still wouldn't have made a great read, but it would have been a little bit more consistent with the pacing that the Shadow Hunters had. And I was not here for it. I didn't even care about City of Heavenly Fire because books number 4 and 5 dragged out. It took me months to finish these two books. These two books were the reason why I got into one of the biggest reading slumps of my life. Like, I didn't even want to pick up any sort of book after that. We were introduced to way too many characters at the very end. I didn't care about any of these characters. I had like 5 different romances going on, and honestly, I really only cared about Jace and Clary. Like, I know Magnus Bane and Alec are a really big thing for the fans. It was okay. It was only okay. And then the 2 werewolves, I don't even remember their names. Like, I just didn't even care about that book enough that I don't even remember the names of the 2 werewolves that are a couple. Like, they're just too many things. I only cared about Jason Clary. If that was the main ship in that whole series, it would have been good enough for me. It did not know what it wanted to be anymore, and Cassie Clare definitely suffered for the last 3 books, I think, because she was on board her own hype train. That's all I'm going to say about that. Whew! The next book that was one of the worst books that I have probably ever read was The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I also unhauled this book. Here's a screenshot of it. It was my own fault for falling for like brand new hype contemporary thrillers. If you read this, you'll love this. I fell for that because marketing is good at what it does. But you cannot outmarket the fact that this book had so many plot holes. This book had so many things that were written in it purely for shock value. Our main character is burgled in her own home and she's physically assaulted. Within the first 5 pages of the book, I'm not even kidding, within the first 5 pages, there was only so much trauma that they afforded the character. They did not give her enough time to process this kind of trauma before we were off and running onto the next adventure. They were trying to set it up like this great big tragic trauma that happens to her. It's affecting her personal relationships, it's affecting her work, but then it didn't. And so what they were trying to set up just was like, here's this shocking thing. I wasn't buying it. And then, of course, she was sexually assaulted on the work trip that she ends up going on. In no way was that treated with the same amount of trauma that this burglary was treated with. Was it because she was sexually assaulted by an ex-boyfriend? Vomit? I don't know. After he sexually assaults her, then they're still like tagging up buddy cop like trying to solve this mystery. It's as if nothing happened between the two of them. So I hated that. And then of course just the mystery was completely improbable. It was wrapped up with a pretty little bow, and then everybody lives happily ever after. It was the worst. I hate Reddit. I don't do that often. I hate Reddit. And then the very final book that I want to talk about. I have reviewed this. I can link my spoiler-free and my gripe videos below. It's a little bit sweary. It's a lot sweary. Drop a couple F-bombs. And that is Artemis, written by Andy Weir. I fell for the fact that The Martian was so commercially successful that I forgot when I was reading it that Andy Weir is actually not a good writer at all. I was reminded when I was listening to Artemis on audiobook. And of course, again, fell for the marketing because Amazon and Audible released their exclusive Audible rendition of Artemis that was narrated by Rosario Dawson. I love Rosario Dawson. I think she is smoking hot. Because I listened to it on audiobook, I probably enjoyed it much more than if I had read this in physical form. The world was pretty plausible, it was pretty believable. I liked what Andy Weir was creating, which is why I gave it 2 stars, not 1. But nothing can save Andy Weir's lack of ability to do dialogue. Jaz Bashara was one of the worst female characters and main characters that I had ever read. Andy Weir wrote things that he thought women would say and do, and it was completely transparent that he actually had no idea and probably didn't ask any women what they thought or would say in a scenario like this when he was developing his female lead. Basically, everyone in this story read as if they were Mark Watney from The Martian. It worked for Mark Watney, it did not work for Artemis. I have a whole video on this. It was a doozy. 2 stars. So stay tuned because this week I'm actually going to be releasing, let's see, this is the worst books of 2017. Then I've got a special top 5 Wednesday tomorrow of the books that I didn't get to in 2017. And then at the very end of the week, then you'll get to see my best of video, my book awards for my favorite books of 2017. So stay tuned for that. This week there's going to be some really good releases coming up and I hope you'll join me. Please let me know in the comment section below what you think of any of these books. If you've read them, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, I'd love to know your thoughts. You can also follow me on my social media accounts, Twitter and Instagram. It's at WhatCastBrad, the same as this channel. So if you have other discussions that you want to get to and you're more of a social media person, you can find me there. If you're not a social media person, you can read my review that I wrote of Artemis. I believe the first line that I wrote on that review was, "Oh, thank God that's over." So you can follow me on Goodreads so you can read more of those, and all of the links and information is going to be down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me. You know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later.